Hey, MC here, and today we are going to be starting a little series on let's spray paint a cheap Turkish shotgun and see how it turns out. So this is already disassembled, so YouTube can't have any kittens about showing people how to assemble or disassemble firearms. So the charge handle on this one had broken off about a decade or so ago. And so our cheap backyard redneck repair was to TIG weld a nickel to the charge handle. So we're going to leave that raw, not paint that. The bolt, most likely not going to paint this, as that's going to be sliding back and forth in the action. Most likely to wear the paint off anyway. So worst case, it would just be a black bolt inside of the receiver. Serial number on the bottom. We'll throw a little tape over top of that so we don't bury the serial number. I'm not that worried about covering up the Charles Daly part. Although, maybe I'll leave a little tape over that. Keep that name, not sure. But we will tape over the safety. We'll tape up the trigger guard. We're going to spray that in to match. Plastic stock, we'll spray that to match. I'm going to keep the butt pad off from it, so that way the paint doesn't come flaking off from the rubber. I've got some tools here. We got chisels, we've got some files, we've got some Scotch-Brite pad, some clean release tape. And so the plastic flashings where the parts came out of the mold, plan on cleaning those up with the chisel. Take any ridges or any high points off that might be sticking out. Smooth sand the gun. I don't know if I'll do any scratch engrave stuff here. Maybe throw an MC or some, who knows. But either way, I've got chisels that I could do some carving and gouging into the stock if I wanted to do that. We have, since this one's semi-automatic, our gas block is, where are we? Here we go. Gas block is on the barrel. So that port is going to chuck gas backwards through the action. We also vent a little bit of gas off through the forward, through the hand grip. So you can see some of the carbon build up in there. We'll clean that out with some carb cleaner. Of course, you want to be careful with the carb cleaner on the plastic. You leave it sit too long and your plastic starts turning into a squishy mess of goo. So typically I'll just apply the carburetor cleaner in a well-ventilated area to a cloth and then use the cloth to wipe. So we'll wipe all this down. I'm thinking since this gas port is still going to be rather dirty, I guess, as this gun operates, we'll use the camouflaging to leave this part kind of black or gray. I'm going to go for a snow camouflage look. So I've got some gloss white, some Ford gray, Massey Ferguson gray, and some low gloss black. Thought I had some clear coat around here too somewhere. Yeah, that's probably on another shelf in another room. But anyway, once we get it all sprayed in, we'll clear it and put some protection over top of it. The barrel, this one, the vent rib, the solder connections had came loose quite a while ago. So we got after that with an angle grinder and ground off those excess spots where it was soldered to the barrel. The front sight and front ramp, that one is still attached securely. We'll end up taping up over the bead so we don't get paint on that, so I don't have to clean that off later. The rest of the gun, I'll most likely assemble all of this and spray it all in one color. Where are we? Top of the receiver. This, most likely, I'll throw some masking tape in on this groove as well. That will be the sight picture when you're pulling the firearm up to your cheek to sight the barrel. I think I want to leave that black, and that ought to be a nice contrast with a white and gray camouflage pattern. Hopefully draw your eye right straight into the front bead. So like I said, this is just kind of a preparation video. We'll change the camera angle around again and be right back. And with the Scotch-Brite pad, you just want to go over top of the stock, all of the plastic parts, mat it down so the finish isn't so smooth and shiny, but dull. That's going to help our paint stick the best. And then on our aluminum receiver, that'll help remove any oxidation, any oils, any solvents, or any leftover gunk off our hands. And again, it'll put small little scratches and grooves in there that'll help that paint bond. I've already removed some of the plastic flashing. There was a high ridge that rolled around the bottom of this plastic trigger guard. So everything else seems fairly smooth. I don't see any other sharp edges or parts that I would need to go after with a chisel to smooth down. So no other sharp edges on it. So at this point, it's going to be just continue with the Scotch-Brite pad. Sanding up all of the parts you're going to paint. After we get the material prepped, then we'll tape off any specific small areas that we don't want, or like on the serial number around our trigger. We'll tape that up decent. The takedown pins, I'm just going to spray right over top of those. Again, cheap shotgun. I plan on using this heavy in the field, so it's going to get scratched up. It's going to get gouged. It's going to get abused. So not that worried about it. The vent rib barrel, this one's got a factory porting on it. I will stuff some cotton gauze or a cleaning rag up inside of there just to avoid having any paint run through the ports and potentially be an obstruction in the barrel. I'm going to tape over the very end of the muzzle as well. I have a extended choke tube for this, so that'll be going in there later. Once I get this gun painted up, I'll get it outside. I will do some patterning with the shotgun at different ranges so we can get a feel for what the patterned spread is going to be with it. And again, I will reassemble all of the parts, tape up what I don't want sprayed, and go to town with the spray paint. So for now, we'll pause the video until next time. And we've got most of the stock sanded up, starting to put tape around the areas that we don't want paint to get in. The safety, we'll go after that with a knife and fold back some of the tape. We can cut that a lot tighter with a nice sharp knife so that we have a little cleaner paint job. Get the serial number area taped over so we don't cover that up. I've left the bolt carrier group right out of this one. We'll add a little bit more tape in there and just use a little caution spraying the paint around so that we don't end up with a ton of paint in the action. And then this side of the trigger, I've got to add a little bit more paint, or a little more painter's tape, and cover up the safety. I'll probably throw a little tape over top of the magazine well, so that doesn't get gummed up with too much paint. Left the spring and a lot of the other parts out of the unit. Sanded the barrel. I still have to shove, I'll probably stick one of the kids' old socks, shove that up inside of the barrel to plug off those vent ports. I'm going to leave the choke tube in for now, just to make sure I don't end up with a bunch of paint in the threads. And again, I've got another choke tube that's going to get put into this project. After I get everything all sanded down with the fine grit Scotch-Brite, we'll go over it with the carburetor cleaner or brake parts clean just to remove the dust. And then at that point, we're going to want to have some rubber gloves on or something of that nature to keep the paint off from our skin, and also keep the oils in our skin off from the surfaces we're about to paint. And I think, yeah, about 12 minutes in, it's probably pretty good for this video. We'll leave it at that, and look for the next upcoming video on spraying this thing. So in the meantime, please like, share, and subscribe to follow along with projects like this. Thanks again, and support your YouTube channels.